Hello there, and thanks for joining me. I'm Corel Painter Master Aaron Rutten, and in this video I'm going to be creating some photo art using the new brushes in Corel Painter 2017. As you can see here, I have a photo open. This is a photo I took of some flowers that I got from my yard. So we're going to use this as our foundation to create a really nice photo painting here using some of the new brushes in Corel Painter 2017. I've gone ahead and just added these to a custom palette. You can hold Shift and drag a brush into a custom palette. If you want to follow along with me, the best thing to do would be to go to Window, and then go to Search, and then you can type in the names of each of these brushes. For example, I have Airbrush, Stencil Flow Map Bristle Cloner, and so on. If you want to know what brush I'm using, just watch up here in the top left and it'll tell you. So the first thing we want to do is with our photo open, we want to go to File, Quick Clone. And that's going to do a few things. One is it's going to create a new document with your image as the clone source, which means that you'll be able to paint from the photo. It's also going to open up the Photo Art Palette drawer. The palette drawers are a new feature in Corel Painter. I can double click on the drawer to collapse and expand it. And it has my clone source and a few other helpful palettes. And third, clone painting was activated over here in the color palette. So it's gone ahead and chosen a cloner for me. I want to go ahead and use one of these new cloners. I'm going to select Stencil Flow Map Bristle Cloner, and that's found in the Cloners brush category. And I'll paint a little bit here on my photograph. And you'll see the color start to come through. And what's happening is it's picking up the color underneath each time I paint a brush stroke. And you may be able to hear me tapping on my tablet. I'm making many brush strokes. Now it's good to make a lot of brush strokes in areas of fine detail. And in areas of large, broad detail that's all the same, you might want to use a larger brush. But it's really up to you to decide how you want to paint this. So I'm just going to do all the petals of this flower first by painting over them. And then if I want to see what my painting will look like, I'm going to hit T on my keyboard, and that's going to hide our reference image, and this is what our painting will look like. If I hit T again, then we can see our photo again, and I can go in here and continue painting. Let's try out another brush. Let's try Stencil Flow Map Grainy Cloner, and then let's go to Window, and then Palette Drawers, and let's select Texture Painting. Let's go ahead and move that Texture Painting palette drawer over here. And I want to click on Dab Stencil. Dab Stencils are new to Corel Painter 2017, and Dab Stencils will change the shape of the tip of the brush. You can create a stencil using a flow map, a paper, or a texture, and you can toggle between these as much as you like. Let's start with a flow map. You can choose the flow map here. There's lots of different flow maps, and you can create your own custom flow maps if you like. Let's go ahead and just stick with clouds. Now you can also click down here on this little gear to show the flow maps panel. We can go ahead and bring that over here to the left. And that gives you more control over the size of the flow map and the contrast. So let's just go ahead and do a test here and see what happens. And if I paint, you can see that I'm getting that flow map texture. And that might not be so apparent, so let's change that to a different flow map. Let's go to the fine dots. Now you can see that that pattern changed. So the tip of our brush is being stenciled off using that flow map. But it gives you some really nice effects. I'm going to go back to the clouds, and I'm just going to finish putting in the background here. So I'm just looking for these big, broad areas where there's not a whole lot of detail. Just big, solid colors. I'll just fill that in quickly. And I'll go back to my bristle cloner. If I want to get this palette out of the way so I can see more of my canvas, I can just double click on it to roll it up. Same goes with the other one. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to continue painting. Now this bristle brush can also use the dab stencil. We can play with some different dab stencils here. Let's change this to paper, and let's look in our papers here. Let's try this watercolor paper called Madness, and let's make our brush bigger. And you can see that I can get these really big, broad textures now. So if I want to block this in pretty quickly, I can get a really nice, organic looking texture. What I'm doing here is I'm painting over areas of the same color, and I'm trying to just put these shapes back in since I lost a lot of my detail. So for example, I'll just stay on the yellow of the petal here, paint over that whole area, and then paint on just the red area, and so on. We can also check out some of the other cloner brushes. You want to look in the cloners category. Let's try Soft Cloner 2. Let's make a pretty big brush. And here and there, let's just paint in a little bit of that clone source back in so we bring in some of those sharp details that we got rid of. We can also paint in some textures, which is a new feature in Corel Painter 2017. Let's try the Airbrush, which is found in the texture cover category. We'll look in our texture painting palette drawer here. And if we look under textures, we can choose lots of different textures. Let's go ahead and go with desk paint for now. You can click on show texture to show the texture. Right now when you paint, you're only going to get texture in this area here. So we'll have to transform this texture. So we'll go to move in size. That'll let us just stretch this out to where it covers our canvas. I'll click on the check to commit to that. Now we can go ahead and hide the texture. And if I use this brush to paint, I'm going to paint in a little bit of artistic background here. These are some paint splatters. Let's try some other textures. Let's try this one called rough. Again, we'll want to show the texture, and we'll want to make sure that we scale it up. Click on the check to commit. We'll go ahead and hide that texture. If we look under texture brushes, we have some options. We can check source blending, and that's going to blend our texture with the underlying image. So it'll blend them both together magically, like so. You can see that I'm adding this texture, but I'm not covering it up with the color of the texture. I'm just using the luminance or the light and dark from that texture. We could go back to that desk paint texture and we could use that too. We'll need to go ahead and scale that up again. And we can paint in a little bit of texture from that. You can also paint with texture and add color at the same time. I'm going to select the Stencil flow map variable color. That's found in the texture cover. And I could select blue here. And now I'm painting with that texture and I'm getting blue. I'm also getting the dab stencil, which is right now set to a flow map, which is set to horizontal flow. So you can see that when I paint, it's stenciling my dab. I get that really nice organic effect. Maybe I'll just sample some of these pink colors here. Put in maybe a little bit of orange, just holding Alt and sampling colors that are in the composition. And we can also add our own layers of paint over this if we want to. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to select the Stencil Flow Map Spongy. That's found in the glazing category. And I'm going to select kind of a dirty brownish color here. Make my brush pretty big. I'm going to go ahead and paint in a little bit of texture here. Now this is using my paper texture and my dab stencil at the same time. So if I really quickly go to Window, and then Palette Drawers and Papers, and I pull that up, you can see that right now I'm using the Madness paper, and I'm also using the horizontal flow map together to create the stenciling on this dab. If I make my brush darker, you can really see what's happening there. Now if I change both of those, let's change this to dots, and let's change this to something more apparent. Let's use this random cracks here. So now you can see that I'm getting the cracks and the dots at the same time. I want something that looks like canvas, so I'm going to go with Standard Artist Canvas. And for the flow map, I'll choose Clouds. Paint in some texture here. It'll kind of build up because this is also a glazing brush. Sample some other colors here, put those in. Now I can play with the composite method of this layer as well. I'm going to set it to multiply. That way it just kind of blends with everything underneath. So I think after zooming out a little bit, I like the way this looks, and I'm going to call this a finished painting. Thanks for watching and enjoy the new brushes in Corel Painter 2017.